Clearview AI. We've talked about them before, and this was the AI company who was basically harvesting facial recognition in conjunction with law enforcement companies around the world. Well, what has happened now is that they've been fined in the UK to the tune of $9.4 million. And this it comes at a particularly interesting time, as as we know, the UK has some of the strictest privacy laws in
Mhm.
this country. And one of the biggest things with the UK, I think they're originally going for a $20 million fine. It wasn't clear why it got cut down to 9.4 million. But the thing is, they were saying, one, you need to scrub all of our data from your servers. Don't include us in any of this. And their biggest thing, I think, was the way the data was collected. Most of these images were collected from the internet, from social media. So it's like an invasion of privacy. And over in the UK, they don't play that invasion of privacy game at all. And it's like, you need to get out of our country with this foolishness. You need to go somewhere else, and you need to pay us this money because our citizens' privacy is of utmost, importance, and we have all these laws specifically and strictly to make sure that none of this stuff gets into our country.
Um, I don't see why anybody with facial recognition software, I don't see why people didn't assume, people meaning government agencies, assume that companies like Clearview was going to figure out some secret sauce when it came to legally and organically collect facial recognition. Of course, they were going to use the internet and scrub social media where everybody puts all of their pictures. They used all the filters, and the filters got to scan their face. So, of course, Clearview was going to scrub that publicly, freely available information to build up his databases. So, I hope nobody was surprised that this is where they were getting this database of billions of images. They wasn't coming up with software or cameras to solely for the use of doing that. Of course, they were going to scan the internet. It's free, and everybody puts all their information out there anyway. So while the UK is doing what the UK does and finding these people for this money, it's like, why wasn't the flag raised initially? Because they don't. How else were they going to get the data? How else are they
Right.
going to get it?
Right. I think for mostly it appears to them it's like you collected it illegally, so now you got to go. Had they done it a different way, it probably would be fine.
But
But
again, for them to do it, they would have to build. They had to spend so much money and build out all this special technology, and it probably would have been more headache than the what is it, the cost
mhm,
benefit, what is the cost benefit analysis, I forget the
mhm.
actual term,
Yeah, I think
but
that's right.
it would have cost more money for them to come up with this technology to collect the data legitimately and legally versus, why don't we just scrub the internet?
Yeah. And the thing is, if you remember, this company was not very well known. It it rose to, I guess, prominence when the New York Times did that article basically exposing what they were doing with these images and how they were going to use it in conjunction with the police. Again, had not this New York Times article kind of came out and said, "Hey, this is what these guys are doing," they would have remained possibly the small startup that they were. And this was just 2 years ago. This was back in, yeah, it was in 2020 when this article came out. And then, of course, because of what they're doing and uh, lots of people were like, hey, let's give them an influx of cash because this could be beneficial to us. And that leads into this next thing is that Clearview just was fined $9 million, $9.5 million almost by the UK for using this data. Guess what? Clearview is coming back to the US, but in the form of um, uh, what is it called? Visitor management systems in schools. So yeah, now they are coming for all of these billions of images um, to try and sell it to schools in the form of visitor management systems. And I just know they're going to try. Even in this article that we're reading from Gizmodo, they mentioned the Robb Elementary School shooting, and saying that had they had this type of software to recognize faces, then it could have helped. Let's be clear, the way that Clearview AI has gone about their business is shady as hell.
Right. You
And
forget it,
being
believing
shady is
anything
not
come
gonna,
out their
yeah,
mouths.
exactly. Exactly. So who's to say a person coming to pick up their child from school, say they have a record, say they were in jail, that but if they're allowed to be out of jail on bond, or maybe if it was a crime in their past, are they not allowed to come to the school to pick up their children? Are their children now going to suffer that because their parent made a mistake or did something in their past? It the sourcing of the data is already shady as hell, and now you're trying to bring that into a school system where you have children to cause even more chaos. Who thinks this is a great idea? I don't yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just it's maddening and it's frustrating that now you want to bring this type of software, which was initially used and initially sourced to work with law enforcement, to use facial rec to catch people who may have committed a crime, could be committing a crime. And then we're not even going to talk about the bias in this data that could cause even more issues. So it's just one of those things where this is not a smart idea. They were literally just fined for invasion of privacy for all this money. And now you're trying to bring it into schools under the guise of visitor management systems. Really?
Well, like you said, like you mentioned, it's not a reach to say that Clearview, with their shaded past and checkered history and their not gonna say backdoor, their agreements working with police. It's not a reach, like you mentioned, to say that police are looking for somebody and they'll tap into or get approvals to tap into this system that's supposed to be used for visitor management to use that for something else because they got the data already.
Right.
So why wouldn't a police force, or whatever government agency, whatever the case may be, use data that originally wasn't the use case to get the information that they're looking for, which again, like you said, based on, bias and based on just not what that's not what it was built for. Privacy will be, put aside for quote unquote the greater good. And that, like I said, that's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. So
And I don't
yeah.
trust them. They saying that they have this new model where it's one-to-one face matches as opposed to their previous one-to-many type of matching. And this is their new model as a part of their quote unquote Clearview consent product. I don't believe this. I don't trust this because I know how the data was originally sourced. So the way you got your business, the way you made all this money, now you're going to completely flip it because now people are, kind of looking at you sideways. I mean, based on the way that you started out, I just can't trust that
Nope.
you are going to do the right
Mhm.
thing with this data. Can't
Yep.
trust it.
It's all about trust and all about honesty. And if you can't do that on the front end, why you expecting people to do that on the back end?
Exactly.